What do you think cars will be like when you start to drive? Will you have to steer, accelerate, and brake? Or will cars drive themselves so you can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride? Meet Mike, an automotive engineer. Automotive engineers design vehicles like cars, trucks, motorcycles, and race cars. Automotive engineers work on a lot of different parts of vehicles. For example, an automotive engineer might design the seatbelts, airbags, computer systems, windshield wipers, or brakes. Right now, Mike wants to design a completely self-driving car. This car would take its passengers anywhere they wanted to go without anyone having to drive it. It would be tricky to design a car that doesn't need a driver, but Mike is excited to work on this project. Today, Mike is focusing on the safety of the car. Because the self-driving car wouldn't have a driver, it is important that the car know when to stop. For example, the car will need to know when it is at a stop sign or a red light. The car will also need to know to slow down so it doesn't hit another car. Mike wants to design a part that will tell the car when to stop or slow down. Mike has an idea. He can create a sensor that will predict when the car needs to stop. The sensor will need to know when there is a stop sign or a red light so that the car can stop at the right time. The sensor will also detect when there is another car close by so that the self-driving car will slow down or stop to avoid an accident. Now that Mike has an idea, he needs to do some research on the internet and sketch out what the sensor will look like. Mike is going to do some research to see if anyone has already created a camera sensor for self-driving cars. Engineers want to make sure they aren't designing something that already exists. Mike learns that there isn't another camera sensor for self-driving cars. He is excited to move on to the next step, sketching out what the sensor will look like. While Mike is sketching what the camera sensor will look like, he thinks about Newton's third law. This law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. For example, when the basketball hits the floor, it pushes down on the floor and the floor pushes up on the ball. Take a look at what happens when a self-driving car hits a large truck that is stopped at a red light. Both vehicles feel the same amount of force, but the small car gets most of the damage. Newton's third law helps Mike understand that if he can get the self-driving car to slow down before it hits the truck, there will be less force and less damage. After Mike finishes his design, he emails the drawing to another engineer. Engineers always get feedback from others so they can improve their designs. Mike is really excited about this feature on self-driving cars. If this car can predict exactly when it needs to stop, the car might be able to totally prevent an accident from happening and people won't get hurt. What kind of car would you design if you had Mike's job? Now it's your turn to go on an adventure and be an automotive engineer.